Some people say they're being followed, watched, and harassed by strangers who know things they shouldn't. The same stranger shows up in different places. Conversations they've never spoken out loud appear word for word in their search results, or a car slows down just as they step outside their house. It sounds like paranoia, but thousands of people all over the world describe the same thing. They call it gangstalking, and today we are diving into the disturbing world of gangstalking. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Thank you. Let's begin. And before we get into the video, I have to preface this with a quick disclaimer. This video discusses gangstalking, a phenomenon often linked to schizophrenia and paranoid delusions. The government projects mentioned here are real, but all information comes from public, documented sources. Nothing secret or speculative. Gangstalking claims themselves are not supported by evidence. If you or someone you know struggles with paranoia or hallucinations, please seek help from a licensed mental health professional. And now, let's get into the video. What is gangstalking? Gangstalking, or group stalking, is a set of persecutory beliefs in which those affected believe they are being followed, stalked, or harassed by a large number of people. The term is associated with the virtual community formed by people who consider themselves targeted individuals, otherwise known as TI, claiming their lives are disrupted from being stalked by organized groups intent on causing them harm. I've been discharged from a hospital, but I believe I'm being/have been gang-stalked. It seemed like the other patients or some of the other staff were actors. I'm worried about going out, as I am dubious of people. I don't know in case they are in on the stalking. It all started with me contacting a YouTuber, and then his videos seem to contain messages to me. I think he sold my data onto somewhere that is experimenting on people and trying to make them go crazy by stalking them. Every time I go out, I see agents and spies following me around, pointing their phones at me, filming me. Every time I see 2 or even 3 people with the same hat or shirt on, people are being extremely mean to me for no reason. When I was at a grocery store like 2 days ago, I saw this group of men in black. They were following me from aisle to aisle. When I changed like 4 aisles and turned around, I saw them standing like 2 feet away from me. They weren't looking for anything. They were just staring at me. I was shocked. There were some old men following an 18-year-old girl. It's so messed up. Keep in mind, all this started when I was 16 years old, but it was like undercover. And when I was 17, they started giving me signs that they are after me. When I walk down the streets, I see tons of cars with their headlights on in broad daylight, and when they pass me, they start winking with one of the headlights. Every day, I get weird comments online with hidden messages in them. They make it that way that only I would be able to tell. There's clearly something wrong, and whenever I would try to tell all of this to anyone, I know I would sound crazy. Like I'm crazy. I feel so alone on this. I have so many questions. Why would they choose me as their target? Why? I'm not a criminal, nor some public figure with lots of money. There's like no benefit for them to pay all these people to stalk me 24/7 just to get nothing out of it. Sometimes it doesn't bother me at all, and I even feel like some sort of celebrity, but sometimes it actually creeps me out, and I want to cry. They also hacked my phone, so they will probably see this post. I've read that for a lot of people, this gang stalking program continues for years and decades. It's so crazy. In the past, when I was unaware that I was watched and targeted, I had people run up to me with the request to take a photo of me, not with me, of me, multiple times. Each time I said yeah, cause I always had an open heart towards other people, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. They leave everywhere a hidden note for me. I'm so tired. I just want my normal life back. These reels are commonly found on what's known by the community as schizogram. People believe that they're being followed and watched, that those things happening to them are not coincidental, and are all part of a grand scheme of paid actors and a higher power, usually a governmental agency like the CIA, trying to mess with them. If someone is behind them on the highway for a while, they're being gang-stalked. If someone bumps into them at the grocery store, they're being gang-stalked. If someone parks next to them, they're being gang-stalked. If someone coughs near them, if someone chews too loudly, if a cabinet is left slightly open, looks at the radio, if their light has any minor, if they see, they hear voices, they're being gang-stalked. You should be getting the idea by now on what exactly gang-stalking is. But the common theme people see with gang-stalking is that it's usually in line with schizophrenia and schizophrenic tendencies, that they're having paranoid schizophrenic delusions, and when they see something completely normal happen, they take it to be the work of gangstalkers and them being gangstalked. The first recorded case of schizophrenia. James Tilly Matthews, born in 1770, was a British merchant who was committed to the Bethlehem Royal Hospital at just 27 years old. 7 years earlier, Matthews had traveled to France during the British-French War. On his voyage, he was accompanied by David Williams, a radical. The two were sent to mediate the situation, and when Williams failed, James Matthews took the lead. For a short while, he gained the trust of the French government, but not long after, he was suspected of being a double agent. Matthews was arrested and imprisoned. Coincidentally, this was at the same time as when the guillotine was used to execute people in public, almost all the time. Naturally, he was terrified of the guillotine, like many of the prisoners. But just 3 years later, in 1796, he was released after the French authorities concluded he was a lunatic. On the way home to London, he wrote multiple letters to Lord Liverpool, accusing the Home Secretary of treason, and voiced his complaints about conspiracies. Not long after, during a debate in the House of Commons, he yelled out treason directly towards Lord Liverpool himself. It's now clear that things don't add up anymore. First, he was complaining to Lord Liverpool about the Home Secretary conspiring against his life, and now he's accusing the Lord himself of this act. Needless to say, James Matthews was arrested, and soon after he was taken to Bethlehem Hospital, committed on the 28th of January, 1797. During his psychological evaluation, he stated that he had taken part in secret affairs of state, referencing his efforts in France. He had been betrayed and abandoned by the William Pitt administration, the Prime Minister of the UK at the time. His family petitioned for his release in 1809, and soon after several appeals and lawsuits, 2 doctors declared him sane, releasing him. However, the resident apothecary, a medical professional who creates and distributes meds to doctors and patients, begged them both to reconsider, stating that his views on several matters, specifically political, made him a danger to public figures, the general public, and himself. He was released anyway. In 1810, a book was released titled Illustrations of Madness, exhibiting a singular case of insanity and a no less remarkable difference in medical opinions, developing the nature of an assailant and the manner of working events, with a description of tortures experienced by bomb bursting, lobster cracking, and lengthening the brain, embellished with a curious plate. Clearly a mouthful, so the title was shortened to just Illustrations of Madness. This book was written by none other than the apothecary John Haslam. He wanted to bring to light and settle the dispute on whether or not Matthews' beliefs were the same as one who'd be diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. This is what documented the first full complete study of a single patient with schizophrenia. As for what delusions and beliefs Matthews actually had, it's scarily similar to what people these days fear about their lives. To show you just how similar his case is relative to modern gangstalking, we need to understand what individuals today claim is gangstalking. Modern day gangstalking. These days, gangstalking has become a more common issue, with people who believe they're being gangstalked labeling themselves as targeted individuals, or TI for short. Here's how it usually goes for these guys. I'm being targeted by a group of people online. How do I protect my privacy and safety? I'm dealing with politically motivated harassment and cyberstalking. A few years ago, I was involved with an organization that these people apparently have a problem with, and they began targeting me. All of my laptops and cell phones since then have been compromised with spyware, and they have gotten all my personal info, including, but not limited to, banking info, social security, medical records, and pretty much everything on my devices. My residence has been broken into with property damage and other personal documents looked through. I have left the area multiple times for my safety and attempted to start over with all new devices, but they compromised the new ones within a short amount of time. Nothing is ever stolen, which suggests they may be leaving something behind instead of taking things. These are people with a lot of money who want me harmed and are seeking to ruin me. I recently started a new job and they got into my work laptop and email account within a week. I've tried using different networks and new devices, but they still managed to find me. I am at a point I've accepted they will probably never leave me alone, but I want to know what countermeasures I can take so that even though they may keep trying, that they will not be able to access my devices private activities, or whereabouts anymore. There is a specific person who I believe is pushing this group, but I do not have the monetary resources to stop him. While this sounds extreme, this is how most stories on gang stalking sound. Timothy Trespass, a former New York City recording engineer, claims that he and his partner, Petra, were both under attack and surveillance before they even met. Both of them were claiming to be victims of hardcore targeting. He claims that there were years of covert drugging with military LSD-like drugs. The watchers could hear his inner dialogue, could hear the voices inside of his head, and even spoke to him through his head, a sort of telepathy. He claimed they would make threats to him, threats involving bombs, guns, being set on fire, poisoning his food, and even turning him into a woman? They would then observe his reactions to all these threats. He states that he's being gang-stalked under remote neural monitoring. There are thousands of cases out there of people claiming these exact same things. This is how 99% of the stories go. And going back to James Matthews and his version of accounts and beliefs when it came to what was happening to him, he claimed that a gang of criminals and spies, skilled in fumetic chemistry, an area of study which tries to understand the physical properties of gases and how they relate to chemical reactions, had begun staying close to Bethlehem. They were torturing him with rays. These rays were emitted by a machine called the heirloom, or a gaseous charge generator. All his delusions were directed politically, with him claiming that the gang which was tormenting him was doing it as a form of espionage, and that there were several gangs all over London with heirlooms at their disposal. Apart from himself, he claimed the other targets were leading government figures, and these gangs were trying to influence ministers' thoughts and read their minds. He died 6 years later in a different asylum, a year after his delusion stopped, in 1815. Does anything sound similar from this story? The rays, the devices, the gangs? Keeping in mind, this was the first case of schizophrenia ever recorded. Now let's get into some cases of gang stalking. I have been a targeted individual for over half my life. Ask me anything. I am a victim of community and psychotronic harassment for the last 10 years of my life. All the things I've seen, I couldn't make up, even if I wanted to. Ask me anything. Gist of it is, a group of people dedicate their time and money to absolutely ruining a person in any aspect they can. Whether it be paying random people to make a noise to set off or condition the target, they like to use whistling for me, or slowly but surely making and convincing the target to off themselves, and everything in between. Normally, this group gets friends and neighbors in on it. During a traumatic event that happened recently, I heard my neighbor and on other people arguing around me. My neighbor was actually defending me, which I'm still confused about. One thing they like to do with me specifically is play songs in public. For example, they tried to convince me I was a part of a real-life Truman Show. One time, I was thinking in my head, mind you, that maybe this was all BS. Next day, one of my coworkers plays a song in the store that reinforces their lie of me being famous. Maybe I'm using the wrong word for that, but do some digging and you'll find out the United States does in fact have access to and has used these weapons. There are numerous patents on them. Remember the patents he mentions. This will be important later. One user then asked him, "Have you considered treatment for psychosis?" Yes, I actually have. I've been on 6 different antipsychotics, all of which worked for 2 weeks at most. The rub is when I stopped taking them, the voices went away mostly, which has been for 5 months now. And the general consensus is that this is bullshit. Someone else asks him, targeted by who? For what? You piss off the KGB or something? Could be. This has been going on since I was 13, so it most likely has something to do with my family. Sometimes these people will target someone for no reason, just to practice. Another user on Reddit posted this: "Gang stalked heavy in Denver. My story. Please help." I was homeless in downtown Denver, and this gang stalking is very real and terrifying. I can't even begin to say how many stalkers. Here are some things I've seen. Stalkers in my case usually look like cops, i.e. bald heads, dark shades, sometimes with backpacks. They try hard to fit in but fail. They walk by me and give a hand signal by scratching their nose or taking their hat off and rubbing their head. Things that look normal to everyday people. I've been followed onto buses and had people take pics with phones. One guy even rode the bus standing backwards, as I sat in the very back. Some fake sleep on the bus, but I could see them peeking. I've even caught one and he started laughing when he realized I caught him mouthing words to whoever else. I've seen them mouth words such as, "That's him," or "That's the guy," once they've identified me. I believe the downtown taxis are also in on it, as well as Denver public works vehicles. Oftentimes, the cars will have one headlight out, way too many for it to just be a coincidence. Sure, once in a while cars have light out, but the stalkers do it to extreme as in the video. One stalker even said, "Thanks for the job," to me. This was backed up by someone on YouTube, also being stalked in Denver, which I will post a link. It's not a coincidence, yet anyone I tell just says I'm crazy or I'm paranoid or I'm on drugs, which is a perfect cop-out to discredit me, as I sometimes did use drugs, but even when I'm sober this stuff happened. These stalkers that are on foot almost always wear Rocky's gear. They hardly ever speak, even if I'm approached. I've even had drones come out of the sky and take pics of me and fly off. I'm not making this stuff up. It's very blatantly obvious. I could see these same people multiple times a day. It's enough to drive someone insane. I was subjected to it 24/7 as I was homeless. Videos on YouTube confirm that there is a heavy gang stalking operation in Denver. I believe the end result was to drive me insane and or kill myself. I managed to get away and move to the East Coast where it's been much less. I've only had one instance here. Sometimes I would hear what sounded like a helicopter, but in my head, I heard voices, but they were very unclear. It felt like I was being communicated with, yet I could hardly ever understand. I found razor blades in places and feel like they wanted me to kill myself. I would be walking down a quiet street and all of a sudden, a million cars began driving by. It's unnatural. I know I sound crazy and rambling, but I'm sure you guys get it. Another individual posted this online. Life as a targeted individual. Hi, I know some of you are curious about the title. Some are curious about my current situation, especially my relatives and friends. I'm a victim of gang stalking. I don't know when it started, but unfortunately, I'm experiencing lots and lots of unfortunate events in my life since I was a child. Being a targeted individual, also known as TI for short, is already subjected to government experiments through psychological research, which is involuntarily controlled by sophisticated machine learning AI, which is also known as V2K, voice to skull technology, and RNM, remote neural monitoring technology. Society might label me as a crazy person, schizophrenic, and etc. due to blackmailing, which is done through the process of social engineering. I realized being a TI when I biked going home when I reached Bickle region in Sorsogon. I noticed that gang stalkers are breaking my physical and digital privacy, using people that are close to me to be used as a weapon for surveillance and electronic harassment through radio frequency from their cellular devices. I know myself that I'm an innocent person since I was a child. I never expected my life to experience such trauma caused by gang stalkers through victim-blaming principles, and the most intense of all are street theaters. Traffic caused by gang stalkers, which is noticeable by uncommon and abnormal car plate numbers, showing you they are everywhere and they are watching you on each step you do. I am currently doing some research right now about my situation. I know for sure in myself that I am not crazy, but labeled as crazy due to the V2K, voice to skull, technology that keeps harassing me 24/7 through hearing voices in my head, which are received by the manipulation of RF, radio frequencies, manipulating my brainwave frequency. Wherever I go, the gang stalkers know and update me about my location. I know for sure that they are mapping my brain pattern for unethical psychology experiments. One thing that I notice about machine learning that keeps interacting and harassing my thoughts in my mind is that the more you interact with them, the more they will improve and manipulate the voices of people that you hear and can be used against you. Harassment is their number one priority, to know how you think. They might know how you think, but they don't know what you know. As if 4chan, Reddit, and several online forums weren't enough, there exists a website for TIs of gang stalking. Targeted Justice is a website which provides a safe haven for those being gang stalked, providing them with support, advice on what to do, and information. This information isn't always the best out there. In fact, it could very well be detrimental to most of these TIs. Realistically speaking, more than 90% of the cases of gang stalking are from people with schizophrenic delusions or some sort of mental illness. And all that this website is doing is enabling them, their delusions, and their illness. And by now, you've probably heard mention of several different methods these gang stalkers use to target these victims. One of them is called Voice to Skull. An organization called FAS, short for Federation of American Scientists, a nonprofit global policy think tank, had a project titled Project on Government Secrecy, which has since been discontinued. This project defines voice to skull devices as follows: non-lethal weapon, which includes 1. A neuroelectromagnetic device which uses microwave transmission of sound into the skull of persons or animals by way of pulse-modulated microwave radiation, and 2. A silent sound device which can transmit sound into the skull of person or animals. Note, the sound modulation may be voice or audio subliminal messages. One application of V2K is used as an electronic scarecrow to frighten birds in the vicinity of airports, otherwise known as microwave auditory effect. Voice to skull sounds are generated directly inside the human head without the need for any receiving electronic device, like a radio receiver in your head, minus the radio receiver. After MKUltra was declassified, well, mostly declassified, and the truth about what the CIA had been doing came to light, multiple individuals began fearing that they were next, or they're already being experimented on. They just don't know it. Medusa. In 2003 to 2004, Wave Band Corp had a contract with the US Navy for the design of an MAE system they called Medusa, Mob Access Deterrent Using Silent Audio, that was intended to temporarily incapacitate personnel through remote application. Medusa is classified as a weapon, more specifically, a crowd control non-lethal weapon. While the initial application for this device is crowd control, the US Navy has stated the following: the system would be portable, low power, have a controllable radius of coverage, be able to switch from crowd to individual coverage, cause a temporarily incapacitating effect, have a low probability of fatality or permanent injury, cause no damage to property, and have a low probability of affecting friendly personnel. So, at the flick of a switch or a few switches, they'd be able to target individuals. Initially, there was a positive reaction from the Navy for this weapon, but just 5 years later, in 2008, the project was discontinued, with the reason stated as possibly because it may have been shown to permanently damage human brain tissue. On May 25th, Donald Friedman made a Freedom of Information Act request for the following: Your Freedom of Information Act request dated May 25th, 2006 to the Department of the Army Freedom of Information/Privacy Act Division for all documents pertaining to the microwave auditory effect, microwave hearing effect, fray effect, artificial telepathy, and/or any device/weapon which uses and/or causes such effect, and any covert or undisclosed use of hypnosis. The Department of the Army declassified and sent him the following 18-page document on the bioeffects of selected non-lethal weapons. One of these effects is the incapacitating effect by microwave heating. The object is to provide heating in a very controlled way, so that the body receives nearly uniform heating and no organs are damaged. To explain it simply, usually when people get a fever, they start to slow down, they become weaker, and overall less active. This is the ideal state that the military wishes to reach with these weapons. Body heating to mimic a fever is the nature of the RF incapacitation. Most people, under fever conditions, become much less aggressive. Some people may become more irritable. The subjective sensations produced by this buildup of heat are far more unpleasant than those accompanying fever. In hypothermia, all the effector processes are summoned to the utmost, whereas in fever they are not. It is also possible that microwave hypothermia, even with only 1 Celsius increase in brain temperature, may disrupt working memory, thus resulting in disorientation. Apart from that, even more concerning is this. Application of the microwave hearing technology could facilitate a private message transmission. It may be useful to provide a disruptive condition to a person not aware of the technology. Not only might it be disruptive to the sense of hearing, It could be psychologically devastating if one suddenly heard voices within one's head. Things start to look a lot worse and a whole lot more real, especially considering this is coming directly from the government. Maybe the voices these people are hearing in their heads isn't blatant schizophrenia after all. Now let's get into some of these patents that do exist. I'm not going to read out the numbers that go along with it, but I'll just read the titles, and these are utterly insane. Pulsative manipulation of central nervous systems. Weapon with integrated targeting system to locate targets, damages/disrupts electronics, biological entities, and physical structures. Allows information to be remotely conveyed to subject via electromagnetic waves. Makes voices emanate from individuals who do not intend or realize it. Ventriloquist effect. Remotely transmits intelligible subjective sound into target consciousness. Voices skull. These are four out of a list of 77 patents filed. While now most of these patents have expired, all of these were filed. After all the patents, stories, weapons, there's a strong argument for both sides of the coin when it comes to gangstalking. How much is real and how much is a delusion? The main question now is, why? MKUltra was testing done on unwitting, unwilling, and random individuals. The difference between MKUltra and gangstalking is that MKUltra was tangible. The ultimate goal of MKUltra was to create a truth serum. Mind control was an aspect, except that wasn't the whole idea. The only true logical explanation to any of this goes back to the 18th century, before the CIA in a completely different country. James Matthews' accounting of events is very similar to modern-day gangstalking. The key difference is that back then, they didn't have V2K or the Medusa. They had pneumatic chemists, a gaseous charge generator, and rather than the CIA, he was being stalked by spies and criminals. This all proves that 99%, if not 100% of the cases of gangstalking are a result of schizophrenic delusions. The only reason we see more of it in today's world is due to social media and how easy it is to share experiences online. Any and all evidence of gangstalking ever produced so far has been purely and entirely circumstantial. It's all one big fat coincidence. Or is it?